Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday. It's Friday, February 10th, 2023. Here we go once again. Looking like just like that. There's already two people here. Were you in the line waiting for? Wait, now this is going to get really awkward. So I have to find where this. Uh, I apparently have on another tab somewhere. There. There, I think I fixed it. Oh boy. I was afraid of that. I was trying to find my page and I opened up two links. So I was going to have to listen to myself in delay. How awkward is that? Okay. So now it's just one of me again. One of me is more than enough. Good morning, Miss Jackie. How are we doing this fine morning? Me and technology, I don't understand technology to the fullest, but I sure give it a try. Who else is here with us, Miss Jackie? Someone else is showing on here, but I don't know who it is. Is it Miss Kelly, perhaps? Anyway, it's Friday. Friday. Hope you have wonderful weekend plans. Who knows? Maybe we should look to Miss Marcia. Let's go to Miss Marcia first. Miss Marcia, she was giving us sun earlier in the week, and then she started giving us this rain and snow mix. And now let's see what we're going to get today. So we're going to start off with the weather because inquiring minds want to know which way do I got to turn here? I don't know. You can see it's daylight's coming. That's always promising. Let's hope that it's sun rather than snow. Though the snow wasn't really bad that yesterday either. So we've got, here we go. Des Moines, 38, sunny, 11-mile-an-hour winds. West Des Moines, 37 and sunny, 12-mile-an-hour winds. Waukee, 37 and sunny, 12-mile-an-hour winds. Council Bluffs, 40, sunny, 9-mile-an-hour winds. Pleasant Hill, 37, sunny, 12-mile-an-hour winds. The sun is out again. We had to get through that snowstorm, but here we go. Altoona, 37, sunny, 11-mile-an-hour winds. Dubuque, 32, sunny, 11-mile-an-hour winds. Even Monticello and Dave, 29, sunny, 11-mile-an-hour. Or no, they get 10-mile-an-hour winds. KC, the Sunshine Band is in full reunion mode. 36, sunny, 7-mile-an-hour winds. Dixon, 32 and sunny, 9-mile-an-hour winds. Waxhaw, 65, rain, 4-mile-an-hour winds. Sierra Vista, mostly sunny, 61, 16-mile-an-hour winds. And Texas Tommy, 56, cloudy, 23-mile-an-hour winds. Excuse me there. Have a great day and weekend, everyone. I feel a sneezing fit coming. Hopefully, it doesn't attack too badly. Have a great day and weekend, everyone. That is your weather forecast brought to you by Miss Marcia. We started off with the weather. Wanted to know about the weather because yesterday was cold. It wasn't really bad as it could be, but it was still cold and some snow flying in the forecast. So we've gone back to sunny. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you for a wonderful weekend. And of course, it's Super Bowl weekend. Big game on Sunday. Philadelphia against Kansas City. Kansas City, here we come. Who are you picking for Sunday? Iowa Hawkeyes were on the road last night. They got beat down by Purdue. They tried to come back, but number one Purdue was too much for Iowa, and they fell. It was like 87-73. They only had like 20 some points at halftime. So they had a much better second half. The only problem is that Purdue was just as good. Anyway, Purdue is really good. So there you go. We did weathers and sports first. Let's get to the message, which I have not even brought up. It's probably why I ended up doing weather first. Here we go. The message for today. The light of God's love shines upon us to begin this blessed new day. Through the brilliance of the sunshine, we can be reminded of God's presence. We can be refreshed and share the light of God's love with the world around us. I don't know if that was all supposed to be one sentence, but that's the way it was written. That's a very long first sentence. But I like the fact that it said the brilliance of the sunshine. So this message written yesterday knew the sunshine was coming today. May we never regret a day in our lives. Good days give us happiness. Bad days give us experience. Worse days give us lessons. The best days give us memories, happiness, and love, and fill our lives with love. Live life today in God's presence, beginning to understand His will and His guidance for us. The most wonderful places to be in the world are in someone's thoughts, prayers, and in someone's heart. We can reach these places through our actions, thoughts, words, deeds, and love, and helpfulness toward others. Each day, we can use the lifeline of God from our soul to God. Have faith in Him, trust in Him, and He will provide us strength, healing, and love. Love each day, reflecting our values, doing things according to God's will that are pleasing to Him. Today, we can wake up in the present and thank God for the chance to live this new day. Because not one day is promised to us. So we must be thankful for each day, each new day that God gives us. We don't get everything done every day, but He gives us a new day, a new chance, a new opportunity to work on the things we weren't able to accomplish yesterday. None of that is promised to us, but He gives it to us. We can let God take care of us in our fears and regrets. Each day in our lives, we have emotions that contribute to our lives. And again, we're created in the image of God, and God has emotions too. The only thing is that God is in better control of His emotions than we are, thankfully. We each have choices to make in our emotions. When we let someone anger us, we have decided to make them the object of our attention. Did you ever think about that? Someone makes us angry, and we get angry because because of the way they've treated us. We're letting them. We decided to make them the object of our attention at that moment. And any intention to do what needs to be done is gone. Anger can consume us. And that's where the enemy provides distractions. The news is a great distractor. It's by the news that we can become distracted with the promises that God has for us, and we become too focused on what's going on in this world. What's going on in this world is crazy right now. But we must never let it get us consumed to the point that we lose sight of the great promises that God has for us going forward, and more importantly, even in these present days. It's not a situation in which we have to just kind of get through this lifetime, and one day we have the great promises of God to look forward to. He wants to help and assist us in these days. It's chaos and confusion out there, And that's the way the enemy likes it. But when we turn to God, we're saying, enemy, you have no control. You may try to get me distracted with what you've got going on, but I'm staying focused on God and the truth. Anger can consume us, and when we are preoccupied with it, our contributions to society are at a standstill. We can't do God's work if we're too focused on other things of this world. Accept things in life, even though we may disagree. Make the choice of contributing love and kindness to everyone and everything that we do. God's blessings on your day. Much love to each of you. In just a moment, please. Marie, get your cat ready. And of course, Dave. No, I didn't call Rusty. I called Dave. Rusty thinks I called him. No, I didn't call Rusty. I called Dave. Rusty is down here, though. All right. So we got that complete. Book of Amazing Stories. Here we go. Marie, do you got your cup of tea ready? Good morning, Bible Blues Brother Scott. Ooh, I don't know about this one. This one is titled The Night Witches. I don't know. Witches does not sound like a good story for me to read, but it is February 10th. Terrified Germans called these Russian bombers Nachthexen, night witches. They came in so slow that radar couldn't spot them, their plywood bodies making a swooshing sound like the sweeping of a broom. When they dropped their incendiary bombs, the night skies were ablaze with a raging inferno. Germans might have had more reason to call them the night witches had they known that the Soviet bomber groups were made up entirely of women. But the German army had only themselves to blame. Their killing spree had liquidated untold millions of men in Russia. That's when Colonel Marina Raskova lobbied Joseph Stalin to allow women to join the combat units. Stalin agreed, ordering Colonel Raskova to organize 3 female bomber units. She recruited the fittest young women and then trained them to fly. One woman recalls that after they put on flight clothes and cut their hair short, we didn't recognize ourselves in the mirror. We saw boys there. Her most elite group was the 588th Night Bomber Regiment, made up entirely of women, from the pilots to the mechanics. It wasn't easy. They were subjected to sexual harassment, given cast-off uniforms that were several sizes too big, and forced to stuff sheets in their oversized men boots. They had to fly antiquated Polikarpov PO-2 biplanes that were hopelessly slow, with canvas stretched over plywood frames and no armaments. It was a laughable idea that one of these flying fossils could ever tangle with a high-tech Luftwaffe Messerschmitt. The women who pilot these death traps were given no radar or parachutes. They operated with pencil, paper, triangle, and a compass. They flew in open cockpits in freezing weather with frostbitten fingers. yet they were tougher than any fighting men in the war, whether Axis or allies. In spite of all these obstacles, these daring aviators in plywood and canvas planes earned the dreaded title Nox Texan. I'm probably saying that wrong. The famed 588th Night Bomber Regiment flew more missions, dropped more bombs, destroyed more targets, and earned more medals than any other unit in the Soviet Air Force. After the surrender of Nazi Germany, their unit was disbanded and they disappeared from memory, except among Germans who tossed in their beds for years afterward with the nightmares of the Nacht Texan. This amazing story of the night witches proves that victory doesn't come from the weapons in our hands as much as from the courage in our hearts. Even a squadron made of canvas and plywood can win wars if the pilots are made of steel. Even a little boy can topple a giant with a stone in a sling, especially with God at his side. If you are facing some giant today, remember this. God has put a stone in your hand for every giant you face. And then our scriptural reading is, as Goliath moved closer to attack, David quickly ran out to meet him. Reaching into his shepherd's bag and taking out a stone, he hurled it in his sling and hit the Philistine in the forehead. 1 Samuel 17, verses 48 and 49. That is our story for February 10th. What is the name of the book you read the stories from? There you go. It is the 1-year Book of Amazing Stories, 365 days of seeing God's hand in unlikely places by Robert Peterson, I'm going to say. And then on the back, I'll just read the back of it here. It says, James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, had a debilitating stutter as a child. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Albert Einstein was bullied mercifully in school. Beethoven's mom almost aborted him. Did you know that? Beethoven's mom almost aborted him. Life takes the strangest, sharpest turns, and sometimes U-turns. Robert Peterson, popular speaker, storyteller, and author, has been a student of his entire life of what God is teaching us through these real-life U-turns. In this book, he compiles 365 amazing stories that teach lessons you won't easily forget. Each entry is written in the rest of the story style, popularized by Paul Harvey. With the 1-year Book of Amazing Stories, you'll marvel at how God has used the lives of these ordinary people to change the course of human history. Ordinary people. I think that would put us under the category of ordinary people. And I'm trying to see, excuse me while I do a little bookwork here. Products. This may have been a one of a kind. I'm looking, Kathy. Just a moment, please. I need Katie here to teach me how to. I'm thinking that it says we have one available. But I've got a feeling that Becky brought it home and this is the one that's available. So if you want one, you may have to talk to Becky about ordering one, because I got a feeling if you try to go to the store to find it, you may not find it, because I think she brought it and it's right here. There you go. So I knew you were going to ask me that, so I looked it up. All right. Let's go to our other book, The 40 Days to Lasting Change. Today, this is the main entree. We've gotten the appetizer out of the way. Time for the main entree. Today is day 6, week 6. It's called Words of a Friend. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. That's Proverbs 27, verse 6. A few years back, I took my family to see my in-laws in Kansas. They live on a farm out in the middle of nowhere. My kids love the country, and for weeks leading up to the trip, my youngest daughter, Macy, talked about how she was going to catch a pet while we were on the farm. She was determined to catch some animal, name it, and bring it home as her pet. And with that being said, Rusty has jumped on a chair, which means that he could jump up in front of the screen at any moment, just so you know. Katie, take it out of inventory. I probably should just go ahead and do that because I got a feeling that Becky brought it home. So don't you worry. I just took care of it. Katie, you don't have to put that on your list. Because I got a feeling that Becky brought it home. Okay. My wife and I would tell Macy, okay, that's sweet, honey, because we knew you can't just go out into the country and catch a pet. Turns out we were wrong. Apparently, we can go out in the country and catch a pet too. His name is Rusty. And you know what? When you see Rusty, and the thing is that we're not going to be able to take our nap today. I told Becky last night as we're going to bed, I said, know that we can't take our nap. And I had to tell Rusty this morning, Rusty, we're not going to be able to take our nap today. Because as I get done with this message, I go upstairs, Rusty comes right up behind. He positions himself in, and we all take our nap, our snuggle time together. Not going to be able to do that today. We were sitting and talking in the living room when my daughter came in announcing that she had caught a pet. I caught a hamster. I caught a hamster, she yelled excitedly. Oh, that's nice, I said. Then I realized there are no hamsters on a farm. Hamsters don't roam wild in Kansas. But maybe it's a mouse. That's probably it. She's probably caught a sweet, handsome, harmless little mouse. How cute. My daughter dragged me outside and over to a tall plastic container. My little girl was so excited as she reached inside and picked up a huge, dirty field rat. I didn't believe in rouses until that moment. She began to pet it, softly stroking its spine. You could tell the rat had lost whatever battle took place. It looked exhausted and shocked. I love my new hamster, she said, continuing to catch the vermin or pet the vermin. My father-in-law, who is a farmer and a wildlife biologist, got a bit riled up. He yelled at her to put the rat down because it carried diseases. Then he added, we need to kill that thing. That's when my daughter flipped out. No, it's my pet. You can't kill my hamster. It's mine. I found it. I had to chase her down and forcibly take it from her. Once I pried the rat from her hands, she fell apart. Tears streamed down her face as I took that big old rat and let him loose. For days, she cried about the fact that I let her pet hamster go. She wanted a pet so badly that she convinced herself that the rat was a hamster, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Even when some trusted people in her life tried to speak truth and impress reality upon her, she lashed out and continued to disagree. Often, we do the same. That's why we need a friend whom we've given permission to tell us like it is, no matter what. Even if we refuse to listen at first, we all need a friend who will tell us when we're neglecting our family for work. A friend who will say something without spending when our spending gets out of control. A friend who will challenge us to do more than just to come to church a few weekends a month. A friend who will question a new relationship we're beginning. Words from a friend like that can often be the most effective alarms in our lives. The prodigal son needed a friend like this, but in the distant country, I'm sure they were hard to find. Proverbs 27:6 says, wounds from a friend can be trusted. And sometimes in emergency life situations, a familiar voice speaking truth in your life is exactly what you need, even if you don't want it at the moment. In Galatians 2, Paul wrote about the time when his friend and fellow apostle Peter withdrew from the Gentiles because he was afraid of the criticism from the Jews. Paul recorded in Galatians 2:11 how he handled this. When Cephas, Peter, came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned. A good friend has your spiritual back. A good friend will sound the alarm. He or she may not want to say it. You may not want to hear it, but it may be the only way you wake up. What does he do? Rusty's getting in his cat carrier. Oh, what was in there? I wonder. He was in there looking for something. Okay, that is just like that. That's the end of the chapter. These chapters are so very short, which is going to allow for another story time reading today. But first, let's read the questions. My aha. List the names of friends whom you have given permission to tell you the absolute truth. If you can't come up with anyone, consider who would be trustworthy to fill that role in your life. So again, I'll read that again. List the name of friends whom you have given permission to tell you the absolute truth. And if you can't come up with anyone, consider who would be trustworthy to fill that role in your life. And they give you in this book 6 lines. So they want you to think of a few people. And then finally, the question number 2 is reach out today to foster this kind of honest relationship with a Christian leader or peer whose faith you admire and respect. List steps you can take toward building the friendship. Circle the one you will do today. So it's about making lists, but it's also taking action, because it's wonderful to make lists, but if you take no action, what good is the list? My phone, I have lots of things written down. I don't accomplish them every day. I wish I could accomplish them every day. But what I do is when I don't know what to do, I always know where to go. Go to my list. Be productive. All right. So there is the end of chapter 6, day 6. Next week will be day 7, chapter 7, which is called Erasing Famines. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. And we know. So there is a program I listen to that is called And We Know, and it's based on Romans 8:28. All right, so we're going to go back to the Book of Amazing Stories since I've got a little extra time. And then we'll do the prayer. And then I've got to go make sure Becky gets up. Let's see here. Got to flip through my pages. We read about who killed Superman. So here we go. Tamerlane's curse. I was going to say cruise, but it's Tamerlane's curse. Perhaps you think ancient curses unleashed on a modern world are only found in Hollywood movies, such as Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. If you think they can't happen in real life, you may want to consider the amazing story of Tamerlane's curse. I was going to say cruise again. This 14th century Mongol ruled a vast empire that covered most of modern-day Central Asia, Iraq, Iran, and Turkey. He was one of the worst butchers in history, often slaughtering whole people groups. When he was almost 70 years old, this genocidal maniac launched his final campaign, setting out with a massive army to conquer China. No enemy had ever prevailed against them. No enemy had ever prevailed against him. But a freak winter storm put an end to his unbroken string of victories. Trapped in impassable snowdrifts, Tamerlane died, shivering in his blankets as winds and wolves howled around him. The emperor's body was taken back to Samarkand, where it was embalmed and enclosed in an ornate tomb. These foreboding words were inscribed on the doors to the crypt. When I rise from the dead, the world shall tremble. That's why locals were frightened 600 years later when Joseph Stalin sent a team of archaeologists to bring Tamerlane's corpse back to Moscow. Muslim imams begged them not to unleash a curse by entering the tomb. But these were men of science, not superstition. Yet after breaking into the burial chamber, even they shivered at this inscription. Whoever disturbs my tomb will unleash an invader more terrible than I. Maybe they should have run from the crypt, but they had their orders from the communist boss of bosses. 2 days after the remains were shipped to Moscow, some 3.6 million German soldiers invaded Russia. Comrade Stalin, who had laughed at the Tamerlane's curse, watched helplessly as Nazi juggernaut rolled across the Soviet Union. Before the horror ended, 26 million Russians died. Surely the curse had come true. The world trembled as it watched Adolf Hitler, a butcher far more terrible than Tamerlane, unleash his invasion on those who opened the 14th century tomb. It's no wonder Stalin sent Tamerlane's corpse back to its violated crypt, where it was reburied in an Islamic ceremony. Even more amazing, within a month of the tomb being resealed, the tide of the war turned at the Battle of Stalingrad. The surrender of the German army on the Eastern Front began the unraveling of the Third Reich. If he could, the 600-year-old Mongol mummy would have been howling in wicked delight from his burial chamber. What do you think? Coincidence or curse? At least this much is sure. No one has dared to disturb Tamerlane's resealed tomb. You can be even more sure of this. God has warned us that curses will be unleashed on those who disobey commands inscribed in his word. The evidence that they are being unleashed on our world today is too compelling to deny. So just as we should seek God's blessings, we ought to fear his curses. Fearing God is out of fashion today, but there are some blessings for those who do so. He who fears God fears nothing else. He who sees God sees nothing else. And the scriptural word with this is, it is a terrible thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Hebrews 10, verse 31. Isn't that something? So actually I went back to, for this story, I went back to January 5th, and we read today, February 10th, and the two stories were related to each other in some ways. What are the chances? Rusty is playing. And so all we have left to do to wrap up this week is the prayer. We have 6 people on. We have 2 people that have liked the video. Thank you for liking the video. Liking the video gets more viewers. I don't know how the metrics of all this works, but the more people that like the video, the more views it seems to get. Also, make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and make sure you receive all notifications so that whenever this channel goes live, you will be the first to know. All right. I think we've taken care of all announcements, and let's get to our prayer, wrapping up this week. The prayer for this Friday, February 10th, 2023. A pastor in Central Asia was arrested on false charges of harming a member of his legally registered church. The church member refuted the charges, but this pastor was sentenced to 10 years, some in a psychiatric ward. While in prison, he continued to proclaim the gospel, serving fellow prisoners. Like Jesus, this pastor endured false testimony, yet remained faithful. Lord, you are the God of truth. In you there is no shadow, no lies, no deceit. Comfort your children who suffer because of false testimony. You know the truth. They suffer because of their love for you, and your rewards await them. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Lord, you are the God of truth, and in you there is no shadow. There is no shadow of darkness. It is all light all the time. There's no lies. There's no deceit. And the world out here is not fair. And so that is why we must continue to seek him because this world, it's full of chaos, confusion, deceit, lies, and what we talked about before, distractions. Anything the enemy can do to keep you from doing what you have been designed to do. You have been created to live in this very moment in time for a purpose and a reason. His purpose. Created in his image. What is his purpose for your life? If you know, get working on it. He's given you another day. If you don't know, seek him, ask, listen, obey, make it happen. It's just like that. And once you do that, you will grow in closer relationship with God, and you will also feel more peace in your life. It's an ongoing process. We are going to have fear, but we are not to fear the things of this world. But rather what we should fear is disappointing him, our Father. And when we disappoint him, we know what we must do. We must ask his forgiveness. We must repent, and he will forgive us, and he will love on us. He will not depart from us. It's only us who choose to depart from him. So go out there, continue to love one another, continue to do what God calls you to do, and continue to spend time with him so you may grow closer to him as well. Do not lose focus on what's most important, and that is loving God and loving others. Don't let the distractions of this world keep you from doing those two things. Take care. God bless. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. And God willing, we'll be back come Monday morning. Until then.